Hi, I'm Ramat and welcome to my channel Shades of Us. Today I'm going to talk about mob justice and violence, and I'm going to go back to 2015 or 2016 when the story broke of a 7-year-old boy who was beaten and set ablaze by a crowd. I went online immediately. I heard that story and looked at the pictures. I usually try to stay away from those pictures, but this time I looked at the pictures and the video and it was so gruesome. I was disgusted. I was ashamed. I was bawling my eyes out, crying, thinking about this young boy going through so much pain. I went on Twitter afterwards and I was screaming about how it was wicked and cruel and everything was wrong. And I hated that, seeing that, and that boy had experienced that. Turns out it wasn't a boy, but was a grown man who, had some growth problems and so was smallish. But none of my emotions changed. Everything I felt was the very same way, because I absolutely hate it when there is mob violence or jungle justice or whatever you want to use to describe it. And there's been lots of precedents in Nigeria. In the north where I live, there were times when we had religious zealots kill people, attack them, and use machetes on them, put a tire around them and set them ablaze because of things that were supposedly blasphemy. We've seen that in the north. We've seen that with tribal bigots. For example, the most current thing happening in Nigeria, where we have somebody leading the charge against Fulanis, generally herders specifically, and then there are people who say it's okay to kill them. I'm like, what is going on? Do you realize how wrong this is? But that's not just the only precedents we have seen. We've seen where supposed people who were trying to curb crime decided that they were going to perpetrate crimes of their own by killing people or using mob violence. I remember specifically the Ejigbo pepper incident, where some women who were supposed thieves, there was no proof, nothing, and turns out it was a misunderstanding, were beaten up in Lagos, somewhere in Lagos, and they were beaten up, and then they took this alligator pepper, and anyone who knows what we call alligator pepper tells you that it's really hot pepper, and they mixed it with gin, and then they shoved it into the vaginas of these women, a mother and her children, 2 daughters. It was one of the most gruesome things that had happened, and for them, they said they were curbing crime because there were lots of people who were stealing in that market, and so that was a way to this. I was like, what happened to the law? It's the same thing that happened with who we are now calling the Aloo, for 4 boys who went to a town called Aloo, and they were beaten and brutalized by the mob, and they were killed, again set ablaze, alive, and it's some of the most gruesome thing that you can ever watch. And then across the continent, we've seen in South Africa where people who are xenophobic say that foreigners are taking all their jobs, and then there's been attacks and the mob will go and destroy property and then come and destroy lives and take lives and set them ablaze in some of the most gruesome ways. And I know I probably have said gruesome 100 times in this video already, but that's because the deaths are just that gruesome, really painful to see, and it just negates the humanity of the people. And you can't help but wonder. One precedent that we have seen is where the government itself is the mob, where the government sets upon people who come against them. We've seen that in Odin, in Nigeria, in Zakibiam, when Shiites came against the the then chief of army staff, and then we had the military come back against them and wipe out a large number of Shiites. We've seen that happen. We've seen that happen at the Lekki toll gate when there was the End SARS protest. We've seen that happen in Mali, in Sudan, in other African countries, Central African Republic, where the government becomes the mob and comes against its own citizen. And most recently with Senegal, with what's happening with the Free Senegal hashtag. So there are so many ways, so many instances that mob violence and mob justice happens, and there is no respect for the dignity of a person. And the part that I must talk about is the part that we are complicit in. I'm talking about you and I was in the university one day, went to visit a couple of friends, and next thing I know, I saw them beating up a guy. And I was like, what's going on? I kept trying, stop it, and nobody listened to me. And they said, oh, the boy came and he stole phones from them. Turns out this guy was their guy. He was their friend. And they all gathered him and beat him up, got him nude, got him naked, beat him up. And it was so messed up. Like the way they were punching, I didn't want to be a part of it. I kept saying, this is wrong. Take him to the police and let that be. And nobody wanted to listen. And I'd seen that many times. And I'm sure you have seen that too, where people just take up somebody and the mob gets on them, takes their own justice, and we don't say anything. We keep quiet. We don't, because we want to be safe, we want to be protected, so we keep quiet, and then we become complicit in the murders of these people. I think that generally we have a tendency, as a people, we have a tendency to be evil, to do bad things to other people, but mob violence takes the cake. I am deeply saddened whenever I talk about mob justice, because without even meaning to, all of those images that I saw when I saw people being beaten up, when I saw people being set ablaze, I saw the pepper being shoved into a woman's vagina. You know, you can't unsee those things. They're there forever. And so I believe with all of me, all of my soul, all of my mind, all of my body, everything about me, that jungle justice must stop. It must stop completely. It is unfair. It is wicked. It is cruel. It is, oh God, it negates a person's dignity. And I think it must stop. And how can we make this stop? The first thing is we have to do something about it. If we see people beating up somebody else, we need to speak the F up. I'm sorry I had to curse, but yes, we need to speak up. We need to say, no, this is wrong. We can't just be on the sidelines and just look. And even better than that, we cannot be part of the mob that is beating up people. No matter what your disagreement is, even if you think the person stole whatever, even if the person supposedly killed another person, we cannot be a part of a mob that is taking justice. It is not our place. This is why we have laws and we have functional systems. Okay, we agree our systems are not as functional as they should be, but it is why we have them. It's not our place to take justice or our pound of flesh. It is not our place. And our justice system has to work. Goodness gracious, it has to work. The reason why I know a lot of communities perpetuate jungle justice is because they believe that if they take it to the court, there's no justice. To them, justice delayed is justice denied. And in many instances, there's no justice at all. So they decide to take their own pound of flesh. But no, it is not our place. I mean, we need to have that dignity for every human being, whether we agree with them or not. We need that dignity. And finally, I think we need to hold our government accountable. Our government, unfortunately, runs our justice system, which means that if we put pressure on the government to ensure that the justice system works, then the justice system will work. So we need to hold our government accountable, and we need to ensure that, for example, Zakibiam never happens again, ever. Odi never happens again. We need to ensure that what happened at the Lekki toll gate never happens again, ever again. We need to ensure that Shiites can protest, because protest is a human right. They can protest without having the government kill them in large numbers. We need to ensure that Senegal is free so that people who come out to protest are not shot by the government, who then become the mob. And most importantly, we need to hold ourselves accountable and make sure that we are either speaking against or doing something against mob justice. This is a heavy topic for me. It's not something I'm happy to do. So I'm going to wrap it up here. You can share your thoughts about this episode in the comment section, and please listen to the end of this vlog to find out ways that you can reach me. I'm across social media and we can talk about this anywhere of your choice. Just have yourself a good day, and as usual, hugs and kisses from Ramat. Bye.